We are.
So just a reminder to everybody that the meeting is being live streamed on the ADAMHS board website. We do have a 20-second delay. Viewers that are there have the ability to send a comment through the live stream that will be addressed at the end of the meeting. So just a reminder to everybody that the meeting, I'm hearing feedback.
Yeah, I had to mute the YouTube tab that popped up there, so we're good now.
Okay. Hopefully you all heard that. And a roll call vote will be taken for each motion to ensure all members remain remotely connected and viewed. So just remember of your video being on or off and your microphone being on and off. So with that, we will let Danielle do our roll call.
Melanie Beam. Heather Campbell.
She's coming in right now.
Just in time, Heather.
Roll call.
Jennifer Demuth.
Present.
Ryan Dunn. Kelly Engelhardt. Brian Kress.
Present.
Rebecca Lemasters.
Present.
Mark Murphy.
Present.
Jeff Neidig.
Here.
Marion Audie. Paul Rossi.
I'm here.
Julie Smith.
Here.
Maureen Stoneman.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Great. We have board staff introductions, please.
Danielle Lurie, board staff.
Michael Dodds, board staff.
Hillier, board counsel.
Bell's muted.
Michelle Sayer, board staff.
And Jeff, I did want to say, Ryan Dunn apologizes for not being able to attend the meeting. His daughter was discharged from the hospital on the 12th, excuse me, but he had to take her back to Pennsylvania today. Please convey his regrets, he said. And Natalie Bolin, board staff.
Thank you. Any guest introductions or comments out there right now, which will be addressed later? Okay. Okay, the agenda was sent out last evening, I believe it was the final version, but yet we do have 2 items to add to the agenda. So before approval, Natalie, would you like to tell us what those items are and where they'll fit into the agenda app?
I would like to add the capital project men's residential and the LSW program under unfinished business. And we can fix the formatting later.
Yeah, I'm just sticking that in there for reference.
Does anybody have anything else before we approve the agenda? Any additions or corrections to it, or not? We will take a motion second and roll call vote.
So moved, Heather Campbell.
I'll second that. It's Julie.
Thank you. Okay, Danielle, roll call vote on the motion.
Heather-
to approve the agenda.
Heather Campbell.
Aye.
Jennifer Demuth.
Aye.
Brian Kress.
Aye.
Rebecca Lemasters.
Aye. Sorry,
Mark-
I didn't know if I was supposed to do that because of my not being sworn in yet.
Sure you can. Mark Murphy.
Aye.
Paul Rossi.
Aye.
Julie Smith.
Yes.
Maureen Stoneman.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All
And
right.
I'm sorry, Jeff. Rebecca, you're welcome to abstain from any motion from this point on that you're not comfortable voting one way or the other.
Yeah. And welcome, Rebecca. Good to see you again. And at this time on the agenda, we do have the oath of office for bringing you on to the board of the ADAMHS board of Tuscarawas and Carroll County. So,
I will do that.
Board Counsel Brad, can you take care of that, please?
I will. Rebecca, I'm Brad Hillier. Would you raise your right hand? You solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury.
I do.
You solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the state of Ohio, and to faithfully and honestly perform your duties as a member of the ADAMHS Board of Tuscarawas and Carroll Counties, so help you God.
I do.
Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Right. Yes. Virtual applause. Where's those gestures? Yeah, we need to have those gestures. Where are they at? There they are. There we are. All right. Super. Glad to have you aboard. It's welcome to the learning experience and the participation experience, and we welcome your knowledge and background, and we hope we can all become more and more educated and more involved in what's going on, and help you along the way, and as you help us with your knowledge and background. So officially welcome on, and like Natalie said, the agendas and minutes and things that we're going to go through have been talked about before. Some of them are just new to everybody, so would not be any problem if you feel comfortable approving those and voting for those, but obviously not a problem in abstaining anything that you're not comfortable with. So just want to reiterate that. So we will move forward now on the next part of the agenda, and that is the board meeting minutes from April 21st. If anybody has any additions or corrections to those that were sent out. There's just one thing, if I remember right, in the call to order, Danielle would have called the roll instead of Michelle in the call to order paragraph, third line from the bottom of that paragraph.
Actually, I think Michelle called roll because I was having computer issues.
Was she? Okay, I couldn't remember. Thank you.
Yes.
I think that was the day I was in staffing in and out of things. So great, thank you. Any other questions or corrections or thoughts on the minutes that Danielle has presented?
They looked good to me, and I do apologize I'm late.
If not, one motion to.
Don't worry, Melanie, I got you.
Okay, if not, we'll entertain a motion to approve in a second for the minutes.
I'll motion to approve them.
Second, Heather Campbell.
Melanie, was that you?
Yep.
That was Melanie, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote then, Daniel.
Melanie Beam,
Aye.
Heather Campbell. Or, oh, I see you.
Aye.
Jennifer Demuth,
Aye.
Brian Kress,
Aye.
Rebecca Lemasters,
Aye.
Mark Murphy,
Aye.
Paul Rossi,
Abstain.
Julie Smith,
Aye.
Maureen Stoneman.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried.
Okay, thank you. All right, prior to the full board meeting here, we did have a budget committee meeting as normal and a quorum, so they are bringing items that Julie will bring to you all now.
Thanks, Jeff. The first item on our agenda is a then and now certification approval request, and you'll see that in page 9 of your packet. The committee did review that, and we're bringing to the board the recommendation to approve the then and now statement for Generations Behavioral Health for the amount of $28,750, which is to cover the cost of some indigent hospitalizations during the pandemic. Are there any questions regarding that item? If not, we will need to take a roll call vote to approve that.
Okay, Melanie Beam,
Aye.
Heather Campbell,
Aye.
Jennifer Demuth,
Aye.
Brian Kress,
Aye.
Rebecca Lemasters,
Aye.
Mark Murphy,
Aye.
Paul Rossi,
Aye.
Julie Smith,
Aye.
Maureen Stillman.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried.
Thank you. Item B on the Budget Committee agenda is review and approve the expenditures for May 2021, and those are found on pages 10 and 11 of your board packet. The committee met, as Jeff said, prior to the full board meeting, and we have reviewed all of these bills closely with Michelle and input from Natalie, and we are bringing a recommendation to the full board to pay the list of bills as stated in the amount of $285,401.02 for the month of May 2021. Are there any specific questions for the committee or board staff regarding this recommendation? If there are none, we'll need a roll call vote to approve payment for the list of bills.
Melanie Beam,
Aye.
Heather Campbell,
Aye.
Jennifer Demuth,
Aye.
Brian Kress,
Aye.
Rebecca Lemasters,
Abstain.
Mark Murphy,
Yes.
Paul Rossi,
Aye.
Julie Smith,
Aye.
Maureen Stillman.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, the last item from the Budget Committee is the approval of the financial statements through April of 2021. Those are found on pages 12 through 15 in your board packet. Again, the Budget Committee reviewed these and discussed them with the board staff, and we bring to you a recommendation to approve these statements as presented on page 12 through 15. We found that the status of our revenue and expenses seem to be in line with the portion of the budget year that we're in, and there were no specific concerns. Are there any questions for the Budget Committee or the board staff regarding the financial statements? If there are none, then we will need to take a roll call vote on that item.
Melanie Beam,
Aye.
Heather Campbell,
Aye.
Jennifer Demuth,
Aye.
Brian Kress,
Aye.
Rebecca Lemasters,
Abstain.
Mark Murphy,
Aye.
Paul Rossi,
Aye.
Julie Smith,
Aye.
Maureen Stillman.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried.
That concludes the Budget Committee report, Jeff.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, committee, all their work. Really good review of a lot of things today. So they do good work and do a good review every month. Next on the agenda, director's report, Natalie.
Thank you, Jeff. As you'll recall, we discussed last meeting the amendment to change board membership size based on what was happening in Erie and Ottawa County and the tension that was happening in the division of the board. I sent an email article summarizing the recent events. They did decide to split. And even more recently, one of the boards was absorbed by the Wyandotte, Sandusky, and Seneca board, and it is assumed that the Ottawa board is going to either continue as a single county board or potentially be absorbed by another board. But I have a feeling they're going to look to stay an independent board. So that is that's a picture of what's happening in the northern part of our county. The way that it impacts us, as you'll recall, is the representative from that area brought to the House of Representatives an amendment that would change board membership from 14 to 18 members to 5 to 9 members. It would remove the appointments that the state has in Ohio Revised Code regarding who has to be board members, individuals in recovery, individuals who have mental health treatment, and family members of each, and a clinician. There are 6 appointments. If the board membership goes down to 5, how would those appointments even be filled? And it changes the number of appointments commissioners provide versus the state. Our board association director, Sherry Walters, and then the chair of our association, Kay Spergel, an ADAMHS director, presented testimony in front of the Senate on May 7th. There was alternative testimony presented as well. I still don't know for sure where this is going to land. I'm hearing a couple things. One, I'm hearing some of the senators are understanding why change the entire statewide process based on what happened in one particular board area. And the other thing that I'm hearing is, as you'll recall, the language is permissive and not required. So the only way we would be moving to a different size board was if both Tuscarawas County and Carroll County commissioners felt that that was appropriate. And I can tell you, I'm not getting feedback that there's any interest in decreasing our board size. So I don't believe that it's going to impact us locally, but we've still been fighting the fight at the state level. So let me know if you have any other questions about that. I just want to keep following through. Oh, I will say one last thing. This is in the Senate Finance Committee right now. They will vote June 8th or 9th. And then if it goes forward, the full Senate votes around June 10th, depending on what else is happening in the Senate. But those are tentative timeframes for this to move forward. Does anyone have any questions about that? I know we did a pretty deep dive in April on this topic. So I'll be quiet one more second to see if there's anything else, and then I'll move on. Okay. I am going to talk about the Guidestone utilization review. If you'll recall, our charges as an ADAMHS board are to fund, plan, and monitor behavioral health services. And so utilization review falls under that monitor. So are the agencies that are using our not our dollars, the dollars that we're responsible for in an ethical, legal, and appropriate manner? And so Veronica goes to each agency, each of our contract agencies once a year, and does both a fiscal review and a clinical review of documentation. She completed Ohio Guidestones on May 4th. The vast majority of the files are in great order. There is a small claims reversal amount of $385. And that is because an individual got Medicaid retroactively. So they have to go back and reverse the claims they billed to us and bill to Medicaid. And then there was just some documentation related to a progress note that was absent. So when you look at this versus where we were when we started this about 5 or 6 years ago, it's a pretty clean process at this point. And she has the other agencies on her agenda to complete their utilization reviews. Does anyone have any questions about that? That's a big yawn, Mark Murphy.
Sorry.
You're fine. I know I have a soothing clinical.
It has nothing to do with this meeting.
It's my soothing clinical voice, isn't it?
Yes, I'll take that.
Yeah, see. And Jeff, that is all I have under that section of the director's report, if nobody has any questions.
Any questions on either of those 2 issues? Okay, looks like Veronica did a great job in thoroughly look into those. That's always a question that comes up once in a while, especially with budgets coming up, is like, do we ever check in on these folks and what they're doing? Well, here's an example report of where we're checking in on as our responsibility. So, all right, next item on the agenda, unfinished business. Natalie had 2 items, and we'll see if there's anything else.
I wanted to touch base about the capital project, the men's residential project. I sent an email, I think it was 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago at this point, that we were made aware that they were recommending us to move forward with our capital project. And just as a reminder, that state funding for a men's residential treatment facility to be opened in Tuscarawas County. So when the state approves our initial application, what that really does, it allows us to do a much larger application. Mike and Pam Trimmer and I had a pretty good and intensive phone call with the state on May 11th. I just want to let you know this is a very intensive and cumbersome project with a lot of steps. So for example, we need to do a site feasibility study of the land. There are appraisals with color photography that needs to be submitted to the state. Transition plans. So throughout the course of 30 years, if I would not be here at the ADAMHS board anymore, a transition plan, the new director understands there's a requirement this location be used for this service. There is the competitive bidding process, which has to be in the paper for a certain amount of days, and it really prescribes how the board deals with that. So I just want to let you know we are approved to begin a very intensive process. It's going to take us a while to work through this and work through this correctly. So you'll continue to hear about it. Please let us know if you have any questions, and buckle up, board.
Natalie, are we in the step 1 application process or the step 2 more involved application process?
We have passed step 1. The state has
Okay.
said this is reasonable. We will set aside this money. Now it's your job, ADAMHS board, to go through these hoops so that we can take it to Director Chris and then the controlling board. And once the OMOS Director Chris says, yes, this is a reasonable proposal, it then goes to the controlling board, and that's the final yes or no into when we get our match funding. But the way that the state describes it, they do so much hand-holding and review and double checking on our application that by the time it gets to Director Chris or the controlling board, it is really almost always approved by them.
Okay. In this initial step 2, you talked about, some work that needs to be done regarding the land and the photography and so forth. Do those funds come from our budget? Like, what are the anticipated cost of those kind of items if they are coming from our budget? And do we have those already allocated?
So one of the things that we've all worked very hard on, the board and the staff, has been to build our reserve, that unbudgeted reserve. So when we did the application, we know that the cost is going to have to be upfronted by us, but then we submit to the state and they reimburse 50%. So everything that we are including will be 50% state and 50% board.
Okay. So eventually, like, we would pay for this preliminary stuff up front, but eventually once our application is approved, then we could be reimbursed 50% of that.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, and Mike, tell me if I'm misrepresenting this, but we can choose to put all of that and then get reimbursed for 50% of something else. Does that make sense? It doesn't have to be, yeah.
We're being reimbursed for 50% of the total project cost. So when we submit to the state for our reimbursement, they would prefer it to be some of the bigger dollar item things. So it's, maybe 50% of the HVAC, which is going to be a large chunk, versus 50% of a site survey and 50% of a feasibility study. So they're not, looking at little pieces and parts of that. So in total, 50% will come from them, 50% from us. Just once we actually get a true budget together and know what all these different costs are going to be, we'll have a better idea of what we want to submit for reimbursement. Knowing also that some things we may want to or may want not to submit for reimbursement, depending on some of the state regulations. We will have to pay prevailing wage unless we get a waiver for that for some of the work. So, just depending on how all that works out in terms of the budget, we'll need to pick and choose what we send for reimbursement and what we don't. But overall, we won't pay more than 50%.
Thank you.
Did I just muddy that all up?
No, thank you.
I will say that I've done a couple of capital projects with OMOS. This is the first construction project, so it is a little different in that we have upfront costs, which you typically don't have with a purchase and renovation. But it is a very collaborative process. It is not an antagonistic, adversarial kind of process like you do with a HUD project where they do everything they can to find something to disqualify you. With OMOS, they want this to work. They want this to happen, and they certainly want it to be as clean as possible before it goes to the controlling board. So I don't anticipate there being major issues or any disagreements between the two parties. It's going to be very collaborative. It's just going to take time to get through all of these many steps. And we can go at whatever pace we're comfortable with going. That's the other nice thing is we are once they know that we're in the pipeline and we're ready to do this project, they know that we're committed. But whatever pace we choose to go at is pretty much okay with them.
Michael, do we have any idea of a ballpark figure of the cost of the project?
When we put the initial application, the pre-application in, we estimated $750,000 for the total cost. Now we're going to have a much better idea of that once we figure out how the land is going to work. The utilities, I think, are going to end up working in our favor a little bit. We've gotten some pretty good estimates already on getting utilities run to that. Based on where the utilities currently are in that area of town, the cost for that isn't going to be as bad as we initially thought. So I think the 750, I think we're probably looking to be okay with that.
And is this project, are we going to kind of go for it, or are we going to put a size in, and then with the land availability for future expansion? What's all that look like? I know we're very early, but just a thought.
Jeff, can you repeat your question?
Yeah. So are we going to go for it, so to speak, with this construction and build everything that we need for that space of land? Or are we going to be conservative based on potential needs with an area around it still available for expansion in the future?
Well, and I'll start, and then Mike, feel free to jump in as well. Or I know it looks like somebody's at our door. If you have to go answer the door.
I'm just going to go let him in. It's the copier guy, and I'll be right back.
Okay. This is not a huge lot. So the lot it should work to fill the 10 to 12 beds that we're looking for. That is the number of beds per guidestone that is necessary for them to be able to be financially sustainable, but then also not cross that Medicaid threshold where you're moving into a congregate living space.
Okay.
I don't see us adding on. I see this being similar to, our harbor house and our women's residential. This is the facility that we are building, and I'm not saying this well. I don't necessarily see us. We are asking for money to develop this facility that will last us the next 30 years.
Okay. Yeah, and that whole thing about the different housing and regulations that Guidestones is bringing out, that's very important for us to know, is to say, well, why didn't you build a 30-bed one? Why didn't you build a 50-bed one? Why didn't you build a 3-story building? Those kind of things are going to be important to say, well, that statement right there is actually it. That's the answer, is to the type of facility that is versus other types of facilities. So, okay.
Well, and when you increase capacity, you increase cost, especially if you're not able to fill the beds, and you increase the staffing requirements. So if you have a 30-bed facility, you triple the amount of staff you have. And we have a hard time right now filling our vacant positions as it is.
Right. Okay. Great.
Do you want me to go on, Jeff?
Any other questions on men's residential? All right. Yeah. Next.
Speaking of workforce issues, I was able to meet face-to-face with Dean Bielski, who is the dean of our local Kent State campus. And they're moving forward with the LSW program, and he anticipates that it's not going to be this fall because they still have to develop the curriculum, but in the fall of 2022, Kent State campuses, regional campuses will offer the first licensed social work programs that they've had in like, I think since the 70s. So it's not going to be a quick fix for our workforce issues, but it certainly is going to put us in a better position than we've been in.
That is so promising. Wonderful news.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you got, clinical sites can start coming on board as they work through their, what is it, a 4-year?
4-year, correct.
3-year? Okay.
4.
Or 4, okay. So, yeah, I mean, wow, opportunities, including the men's residential maybe. So, yeah, awesome.
So that was very exciting, and that took a bit of a detour during the pandemic, but to hear that he feels incredibly confident that it's happening, he said, not incredibly confident, it's happening. So that's great news for our community. That is all I had, Jeff.
Okay. The only just one minor thing under unfinished was when last month we talked about board terms expiring, and we talked about myself, Paul, and Julie, and then you were going to talk to them. But then when you sent out that listing, I saw Brian's name on there as well. Is he like he's in a partial? You're in a partial term, right? I mean, kind of.
Oh, I'm out of here.
Hey, Brian.
Because your name was on the list, sir.
I saw that.
Yeah. So anyway, that was just kind of unfinished. That he, as a follow up to the last meeting, that list was sent out from Natalie, and so when Brian's name was on there as well for this year. So
thanks, Jeff.
Any other unfinished business?
I just want to remind everyone that the executive director evaluations are due May 31st. So I think most of you actually have turned yours in. But for those of you who haven't, if you could just get them in the next week and a half, I would appreciate it.
And if you need Maureen to send it out again, I'm sure she will.
I'll send you a reminder next week anyways.
Any other unfinished business anybody knows about? Unmute now or forever be muted, right? New business then, upcoming meetings. So we're kind of getting out of here early today because of there was not a lot of committee meetings that had to happen in the last month. But if you look at the next 3 to 4 weeks full of committee meetings, and so be prepared for a busy board meeting in June. A lot of stuff will be happening. So those of you that are on Mental Health and Addiction Services Committee were notified of that cancellation of our meeting this week, but the follow-up meeting that was already pre-scheduled will happen on the 27th. And then budget meeting and related to the Mental Health and Addiction Services work on their packet that they would have from the agencies. Tri-P doing the annual personnel reviews and things, and then somewhere in there will the nominating committee to be determined will happen. So any additions or corrections to the meetings that'll be happening?
I would just add, I invited the Mental Health and Addiction Services Committee to come to the Adams Board office or participate virtually. If some of you have already let me know, if you're planning to come to the office, please let me know and we'll make sure we have appropriate space set up.
Natalie, with the change in health orders that are coming to be very soon, do you anticipate there will be a change in the way you're operating at the office or in resuming the in-person meetings that we have at the office?
I do, Julie. It's going to need to be based on our size, but I feel like those that are comfortable with in-person meetings, it's time for us to move in that direction, but we still will work on having the Zoom option.
And as long as we're in a public health emergency, we're allowed to continue with the virtual meetings. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Natalie, it's Brian. I will be in person on the 27th. So you know.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Any other new business? Mike, are there any visitors or questions, comments for us to address?
Well, it says there are 2 watching, but I do not see any comments from the other watcher.
Okay. Awesome.
I feel like it might be my dad.
Oh. You're famous. Don't be embarrassed. He's proud of you. All right. Well, if there's no other new business, we'll take a motion for adjournment and we will get you all out into the sunny day a little bit sooner than later.
I'll move for adjournment.